Welcome. This is the final episode of 2025. This is the Shane and Joseph wrap show. We're going to wrap up what our years looked like, felt like, smelled like, sounded like. We're going to talk about places we've been, maybe some of the people we met. We're going to talk about all that we did accomplish, all that we wish we thought we could accomplish. And then maybe we'll talk about some of the things we're looking to accomplish, whether it's on the personal level, business level, podcasting level next year in the beautiful year of 2026. Shane, say what's up to everybody. Tell us how you feeling.
What's up, Joe? I'm feeling okay. It's been a busy 2025, and I hope to try to replicate that in 2026, but it might be difficult. Just trying to keep up with you, man.
What was the best gift you got for Christmas and one of the most fun gifts you gave for Christmas?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I think the best gift that I got was just being able to spend some time with my family. We went back to Michigan, and so we haven't done that in many years because I'm out in California, so that was good. And the one we gave, I don't know, my boys, I guess, getting to take that trip, they said they appreciated spending some time with family. They're older, they just get clothes and stuff like that now mostly, so nothing too exciting. How about you? You got a little gaggle of folks there. They're probably excited about.
Yeah, I mean, getting gifts. What did I even get this year? Actually, I burdened my wife for a Christmas gift. It's a business tool that I'm looking to get. I'm looking to transition my storage from Google Cloud to something in-home. It's called a NAS device network attached storage. It's a 16 terabyte storage machine that sits in home to where I can access all my files directly at home, and then also while I'm out on the road in the cloud functionality. Google's great. I know they're super triple back secured and all that stuff, and there's no there will never be a time where Google will lose your files, but the workflow with Google is tough because when you download it only gives you so many gigs per download and it breaks everything up. And I shoot a lot of 4K video, and that video takes forever to download from the cloud. It's just been a headache. And as business grows, the systems and procedures have to get more robust, and this is one of those. And it's one of those I smile in having this problem, because when you first start out in business, you don't know where your business can take you. And so having this as a problem makes me smile because that means I'm busier. Probably the gift that I gave, let's see. I don't know. I mean, got the kids stuff, and of course they just love opening stuff and throwing the wrapping paper everywhere. But yeah, exactly. So I don't know. That's a good one. I got my wife something, maybe one or two things, but nothing crazy. So yeah, I'll have to report back to you next year, see if I do a better job at gift giving.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily around the holidays, but a gift that you gave me this year, which I'm thankful for, is inviting me to be a co-host on the Public Works podcast and kind of teaching me how to use a lot of the software. And I'm not close to your level. I'm at the apprentice level. You're the master, but been able to, through your guidance, be able to put out some shows, which has been interesting, fun, and educational. So thank you for that gift.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to watch you produce your shows and put out your content, because I know that, again, I feel like everybody should do this or could do this. It shouldn't just be Joseph and Shane dominating the public works industry in regards to podcasting content. But I appreciate you kind of having because a lot of people say they want to do something. A lot of people, I want to start a show, I want to talk about this, I want to do this or that. And you just hear crickets from them. So I appreciate you taking the initiative and actually doing it. You boned up and bought some equipment, which is usually people's first step, is the hurdle that they can't get over. And then also reaching out and giving some of those interviews under your belt. Looking forward to seeing the interviews that you get in the future and just the content we continue to produce in the future. Again, I feel like this is a blue ocean of a possibility and opportunity for us to be able to, again, further cement ourselves and our businesses in this industry through producing content. So I appreciate you getting from 0 to 1.
And this is probably where we should say, please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching that here at the Public Works Podcast. Follow us on the LinkedIn platform, the Public Works Podcast there. Yeah.
And it'd be fun to actually talk about that. We don't have to do it now, but the YouTube channel, the LinkedIn, those are some things that, again, it's labor of love. It's a burden. But if you're listening to this, just even if you don't go on YouTube, you got 3 burner YouTube channels, just hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. It helps us out. It helps get the word out if that's what you're for, which most people in the industry are. So please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. If you're on LinkedIn, just hit the like button on the page. Even if you hit the like button and still block us because you're getting tired of seeing our content, feel free to do that. But again, it helps get the word out. It helps tell the stories of those whose stories aren't being told. So please just hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And to be honest, we're going to do it no matter if you hit the subscribe button or like button or not. We're still going to be producing content, but it does help us get the word out.
For sure. And we're advocating for free for the public works industry and the people in the industry. And so if you are supportive of the industry, the simple thing you can do is smash that little subscribe button. And that's great.
For sure.
Good talk.
All right. Well, let's wrap up this 2025. How do you want to do it?
I think we'll just go month by month because there was a lot going on. I think, first of all, in January, I didn't travel a lot, but maybe we'll try to put up a map here so you can see where we're going. But I did get an opportunity to partner with the National League of Cities to do national grant training all over the country with helping more than 100 local agencies, local government agencies. And that was to try to help access the federal grants, which came out of the original Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. We had a few detours of those grants in 2025, which made things interesting, but I was thankful and fortunate to be able to partner with the National League of Cities and the American Society of Civil Engineers to provide that training for multiple programs throughout early 2025.
Nice.
How about your January?
As I look at my calendar in January, I see a lot of podcast episodes, a lot of. Let me do my yearly first because that's kind of how I segmented up the wrapped up. So I'll talk about the year, then we can dive into the months. So speaking engagements, I had 11 on the calendar for 2025. And I tried to think objectively if I could hit that target next year, if I should lessen it, if I should double it, and what I could do next year. I think at the end of the show, we can kind of talk about what our targets are for next year. But 11, that feel like that's a lot for me. That means 11 different times I had to submit an abstract, get my PowerPoint, or I use Canva for PowerPoints and get on stage and do the song and dance and talk about X, Y, and Z or A, B, and C. So that was pretty cool. Different cities traveled to as 19. We can dive into those in a second. Podcast episodes. So the amount of interviews that I did this year was 65.
Wow.
So 65 podcasts. I feel like I had a higher goal than that. For next year, I want to do 75. I think that might be a little bit more ambitious, but for having done 65 in a year, that's pretty cool. Just again, 65 stories told about people in our industry. One thing I track, which is really cool, is I think I call synergy calls. So synergy calls is, if you know me, if you ever connected with me on LinkedIn, there's either two ways we're going to be friends. Is I'm going to get you on the podcast or try to get you on the podcast, or B, we're just going to hop on a phone call and we're going to talk about the industry, what you see in the industry, what I see in the industry, what's working for you, what's working for me. And we're just going to have, I like to see it as hallway banter about the industry and about what we're doing. And that's what I consider a synergy call. So if you connect with me, I'm probably going to ask you to get on a synergy call, or I'm probably going to ask you to get on the podcast, depending on what you do. And so I had 86 synergy calls last year, which again is a number it's not nothing, but I think next year I have a target for 150. And that's just being more intentional, getting the people that I meet or know or connect with to hop on a phone call. A lot of people go, well, what are we going to talk about? And I'd say, well, when you go to a conference, you don't know what you're going to talk about. You just start talking to people. And it's the same thing. Some calls go 4 minutes long. We realize we don't have any synergy. And I say, hey, man, thanks for hopping on the call. I'm going to let you get back to your day. I'll see you when I see you. And some calls can go for 30, 45 minutes. And we're actually game planning stuff that can work for mutually for both parties. So again, 86 synergy calls. Next year, I want to hit 150. And yeah, so that kind of wrapped up my year. I guess if you ask month, January was pretty dry for me in regards to travel. February started picking up. I did the Utah Rural Water Conference. So Utah Rural Water, it's just like it sounds. It's in St. George. They have all the rural water guys come out. It's a conference that I haven't got any business from yet, which is, again, it's one of those things that the busier I get, more I have to start looking into what's working in regards to driving revenue to the bottom line. And so the Utah, it's always a good conference. I usually have a good crowd. I mean, there's at least 100 people in that room when I spoke. I remember that vividly, which is pretty fun to be a part of. But it's one of those, like, if it doesn't make sense in the future, it doesn't make sense. So that's what I did in February. Again, I was looking at a lot of public works podcast bookings, a lot of shows. and then a lot of synergy calls. So go ahead and talk about your February.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what you were saying about rural conferences, it seems like those agencies, because they have probably fewer people or they have larger areas to cover, they are maybe starved for some content or some training through your solutions that you provide that probably is very helpful for them. If they only got two guys and one of them leaves, they better have some training on video. Is that what you're seeing from those folks?
100%. If you think about like sports, like the NFL, right? You can't even make that comparison because college is so flush with money nowadays. Like, let's say the baseball, MLB is the big dogs, right? That's the big cities, that's the normal cities with the normal budgets and stuff like that. But rural, it starts to go down to AAA, AA, single A. I mean, the amount of budget that they have that they're working with, the size of the talent pool that they can fish out of to find talent is tough because now you have to get somebody to drive so many minutes to come to a rural community and make a lot less than what they could make sitting in a backhoe for half a day. And so these agencies are, like you said, they're starved for solutions to operate more efficiently instead of having to pay a higher dollar to get these things done. And they love the refreshing kind of talk that I give about, hey, there's other ways you can skin that cat without having to hire the best and the brightest to come and operate your utility. So you can't forget about the rural guys. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of America is rural. I mean, we live in the Californias and the Arizonas, but once you get outside of these big metropolitans, yes, there's cities of 30,000, 50,000, but there's a lot of land with people just spotted in there, and that's the rural communities of America.
It's interesting. I think the ratio is probably rounded or averaged to 70-30. So in the rural areas, you have 70% of the infrastructure and 30% of the people, just because the infrastructure is so long, or you get these highways going forever. And in the urbanized areas, you have 70% of the people and 30% of the infrastructure. So you need both, but it's just a little bit different dynamic. So thanks for sharing that. Quick 2025 summary. I just looked at the client base. So I worked with 24 different agencies or clients in 2025, which is interesting.
Nice.
And maybe we can give a shout out to them later. But in February, I did joint APWA and ASCE Public Works Institute in San Diego, California.
Okay. PWI.
So PWI, didn't have to get on a plane for that, which was good. But then I did get on a plane to come over to the APWA Arizona chapter presentation that I did in Phoenix. And that was at your monthly chapter event. And then we got together to do a show about a 2025 kickoff, if you will, and what's happening with the government and the new administration, the federal government. So it's good to see you there and catch up in February.
That was in February. Yeah, you came out and spoke. March for me, let's see. I went to Texas Water. Everybody says, oh, if you want to do business in Texas, you got to go to Texas Water. So I hopped a flight and went out to Texas Water. I knew a decent amount of people there. I mean, and again, that's a testament to the podcast. I can pretty much drop into any one of the 50 states and at least be able to drop a name of somebody that I know that they might know that I've had on the show.
In half those states, Joe, you can identify a burger place usually also, right? Yeah.
Yes. Half the places I could say, have you ever tried this place? They're like, yeah, it's the best. I'm like, yeah, I know, because so-and-so told me. It's easy conversation starter. But yeah, Texas Water, it was fruitful. Made a couple good relationships there. Had some leads come out of it, no business closed from it yet. It's funny, Texas Water this year is the same week as Arizona Water. So I'm still trying to figure out which one will make sense for me to go to. Of course, Arizona Water is just down the road. I could drive there. But it's, what do they say? A prophet isn't known in his own land. Some people don't see you as the same person when you're in town. Oh, that's just Joseph. He lives up the road. Versus in Texas, they go, oh, okay. And so I'm still debating that. And then the next thing I did in March it's called the Isle Utilities Pitch, and it was in LA. So I drove out to LA, and this was at the MWD, the big Metropolitan Water District headquarters, and I think it's downtown LA. And I had to pitch my company. I had to pitch my service on what it is, what it does, and who it could benefit. And it's funny, they give you 10 minutes to pitch. They give you 10 minutes to answer questions, and then you leave the room, and then they deliberate about it for 10 more minutes. And then there's people that can submit if they want to speak further with you or not. That was one of those high pressure, kind of one of those you have to prepare for a little bit. and like block some mental time on your calendar off in the weeks and months leading up to it, just so you nail it. And I did. I prepared for it. I got that pitch super tight down to 10 minutes. I think I left about 15 seconds on the clock. And yes, I was able to get some business out of that. Probably one of the biggest contracts that I've ever gotten has came out of that, which is refreshing to see. I mean, multiple six figures work for Vitendo from that talk. And there was only probably 20 people in the room, but it's interesting. It doesn't take 500 people to be in the room sometimes. Sometimes it could be a smaller crowd, a more of a intentional crowd. And so that was pretty cool. And then after that, it was the Rural Water of Arizona. That was in Prescott, Arizona. Oh, no, that was in Tucson. So, yeah, Tucson, that was the third week of March there. So, of course, I go out there, I speak, I talk about what I do. There's probably about 4 people in that room. It's usually a conference that I just like to hang out and talk to people that I know. And if somebody shows up to my talk, great. If not, I would still deliver it on video anyway. So, that was my March.
That's awesome. A lot of lessons learned, I'm sure, through those events. Yeah. For me, March was big with supporting local government clients with federal congressional directed spending requests applications. These are your earmark applications. And so that deadline was in February. So I think I had about 5 or so clients where we had to get all that stuff ready and get submitted both to the Senate side, the federal level, and the House of Representatives side. That was busy. That also coincided a little bit with my legislative fly-in trip into Washington, D.C. with American Society of Civil Engineers. So we were talking about the release of the infrastructure report card at that time, trying to figure out with the new federal administration, were they going to prioritize infrastructure or not? So that was an interesting time. And I think we also did a show there when I was in D.C., kind of boots on the ground on Capitol Hill, where we logged in and did a little preview of what's happening there. So appreciate it. That was March. It was busy.
Yeah, I'm always jealous of those doing the federal government fly-in. I don't know what I would do if I went, but they look fun. They look like something that's important. Of course, I always think about it from the content side of like what could be created at those types of fly-ins. So maybe one of these years you might see me in an actual suit on Capitol Hill.
Let's do it.
All right, April. So I got the call that somebody wasn't going to be able to make it to the APWA Snow and Ice Show, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
we're supposed to do that in tandem, Shane and I. Shane couldn't make it, which I totally understand. It's his hometown, and you know what happens when you go back to your hometown. Nothing good happens. So I flew out to Grand Rapids, had a good time. I don't know if it's a show I'll ever do again. I mean, unless it was like an actual huge magnet to pull me there. A guy I met actually on my podcast, Dustin Hanson. Shout out to him. I said, hey, you looking to do a presentation with me? He's like, well, what about? And I told him, like, here's the main things we're going to talk about. He's like, sure. So I think I floated on the slides about 60 seconds before we started talking, and he crushed it. I mean, he's one of those guys that does the work. He's the streets director for city of Sioux Falls in South Dakota. So he knows snow. He's snow for sure. And super likable guy. And he got up there and did his thing. And I was appreciative of him just humoring me, sharing the stage with me. He could have easily said, no, it's not something he's interested in. But he did it, and we had a good time. I did shoot some content from there. I like to go around. A lot of you might have seen that I like to go to these trade shows and just ask people about who they are, what they do, what problems they're seeing, and what problems they're solving. And so that was kind of one of the starts of that, which was fun to watch and how that took off over the year. Let's see. That Isle Utilities, I had another one in Atlanta. So I flew out to Atlanta, did my 10-minute pitch, did the 10-minute Q&A, and then that one was a little bit different. The energy was a little bit different than the LA one. It didn't get anything out of it, and it's funny, you kind of feel it in the room. I don't know if it was me, I don't know if it was my preconceived notions or my limiting beliefs, but it just didn't have the same vibes that it had in LA. And yes, the leads that I got out of that, nothing has came to fruition from there. Water show, again, that's the big AWWA water show in Arizona. Didn't we see each other out there? Was that this year or was that the year before?
Year before.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it.
Okay. Yeah. So went out there. That was my first time speaking at the AZ Water Show. I'm not sure if you've seen Yellowstone, the show. Okay. So yeah, I did a Yellowstone themed show about succession planning and trying to get the ranch over to the next generation without the powers that be taking it over and stuff like that. I could tell it resonated with most people in the room. It's always one of those, it's refreshing when people come up to you after your talk and say, hey, thanks for doing that. It didn't sound like every other talk that I've sat through. That's what I aim to do. Let's see, CWEA conference that was in Palm Springs. I went out to that. I wasn't speaking there. I had set up a couple meetings, but that was one of those I want to get more involved with CWA. CWA is the California Water Environmental Association, and they do great things. It's a great network of people who I could potentially do business with. So I want to be more intentional about doing stuff with that. And that's why I went out and just did the thing. And then, yeah, that's it for April for me.
That's busy. So
Yeah.
April, part of the reason why I couldn't join you at the snow conference was I was back in DC with the American Public Works Association as part of my role with the Government Affairs Committee. So back to Washington, DC for that.
Yeah.
For advocating with the new Congress, the 119th Congress, to talk about the policies and priorities of the association. So I was back there in DC, and then I flew back out and I presented at the APWA SoCal PWX conference, conference for SoCal, and Southern California chapters, the biggest in the country. So that was a big deal. And I presented on fleet modernizations because California had a electric vehicle regulatory framework. And so local governments, and they still need to comply with these conversion efforts for electric vehicles. So I talked about how to modernize your fleets there. So that was a busy April as well in travel for me.
All right, May for me, probably one of my more fun conferences was the APWA Mid-Atlantic Conference. This was in Ocean City, Maryland, literally on the water on the east side of the country. So I put the west side all the way out to the east side. Landed in DC, went and visited a buddy of mine from college, and then I drove all the way out to Ocean City. It's cool because there's like a car show every year that coincides with the conference. It's not attached to the conference, but every year it's like the big Mid-Atlantic, and there's like thousands of old school cars and roadsters and all that fun stuff out there. So even if you weren't at the conference, you could just sit on your balcony and watch all the cars drive by. That was a fun event. That was one of those. So again, I go back to just creating content. So when I go to these trade shows, when I go to these conferences, I shoot those, and I they're cringy. Like, let's be honest. What is this guy doing? So I go to exhibitors and I ask them who you are, what do you do? What problems are you solving in the industry with your solution? What problems are you seeing in the industry? And those little 30-second, 90-second clips, I take those, I caption them, and I post them to LinkedIn that night. And that allows them to reshare it. It never drives like 1,000 people to their booth the next day, but it's one of those, like, I know as a marketing guy, if I had people at a conference, I would want them to create such and such type of content. So I'm doing that for them. And to bring people behind the curtain a little bit, whenever I post one of those videos on LinkedIn, of course they're going to reshare it because it's them talking about them. And then what happens is all of their network or some of their network engages with said content. So all the people who like it, comment on it, whatever, put a heart on it, like I connect with them. And now all of a sudden I'm the safe guy because I talked to Jim Bob at the conference, and me and Jim Bob had a great time talking, and now they recognize who I am. So that has ballooned my network in the last 12, 13 months because intentionally I go to these conferences and I do stuff like that. I've been to so many conferences where I just walk the floors and hopefully run into somebody. And I said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better return on spending $1,000 to get there, instead of just walking the show and then leaving and hoping and praying that I might get some leads out of it. So this has at least allowed me to meet people and start to build out a network, because we know in this industry, it's a lot of relationship driven. So anyways, through doing those videos and having somebody on the podcast, he was like, hey, can you come out to our Mid-Atlantic conference and do that? I said, sure, for sure. Can I get a spot on stage? He's like, sure. And so it's going to be hard for me to just go all the way out to the East Coast just to shoot that kind of content. But he allowed me to talk in front of the whole group. I mean, it's about 150 people in the room. I talked about who I am and what I do. I've gotten business out of it, which is great. And so that, like, it was worth it. It was worth it. And then again, I keep preaching on the testimony of shooting such and such content, because the more people see it, the more people see you, the more people trust you. And hate to say it, the more people see you as an influencer and want to have you out to their event. So that was the first week of May. Let's see. That was pretty much it for May. I did have a couple times where I went out to Los Angeles to meet with some people. I was in San Diego at the APWA happy hour down at the APWA chapter. But yeah, that was my May in a nutshell.
That's good. That's busy. So by May, I did a trip to Michigan, a little quick back and forth there. Then I was in the California Contract Cities Conference in Palm Desert, California, which is kind of an interesting show because LA and the city of LA and the county of LA are such big agencies, right? LA County is the biggest public works agency in the country, for example. Los Angeles, second largest city. There are hundreds of cities around those and intermixed with those big metro areas. And so this conference was all about those contract cities who don't have all of the services of a big city, of what we call a full service city, but they contract with those full service cities, or they contract with private sector partners to provide those services. They're big enough to be a city, but they're too small to have all those things in-house. So they contract for all of that. So that was interesting. I went there with my partners from Transtech Engineers and met a lot of people there. A lot of elected officials there, which was interesting. Then I was back in Downey, California for the APWA SoCal Public Works Institute, PWI, to present there. By the way, quick shout out to the Public Works Institute. I know you work with those folks. And these are people trying to move from maybe line level staff, supervisory staff,
Yes.
technical staff
Yes.
up to supervisory level, manager, maybe director, leadership. So this is all the training they get in different topics to try to advance their career. So kudos to all of those folks going through that program. Then I did a quick trip to Phoenix in May. I had to take care of some business there, kind of an in and out in Arizona, and then back to California. So that was May.
Nice. So my June, ACE was in June. ACE, if you don't know, it's a big water conference, probably the biggest is freshwater conference in the country. That was in Denver. I flew out for that. You and I linked up at ACE. And if you don't know, when I started off in the industry, I was selling Vector trucks and Elgin street sweepers. So I was on the street side and I was on the water side. Vector trucks is mainly, I don't know, mainly wastewater because you're sewer cleaning with it. Of course, the water departments have combination trucks to whether it's cleaning out certain lines. So it's essentially I knew about the water side, but I didn't really know about the water side. And even like as I create content and as I kind of find my niche within the industry, I've always thought like public works is a wide brush to paint with. And we know that the more you niche down, the more you start to find your people, the more you can speak a specific language and more you can, I guess, be the guy or the girl in that industry. And again, public works is a wide brush. There's a lot of things under public works. So again, starting the Public Works podcast and kind of just being the guy who speaks to public works. When I go to a show like ACE, I think, man, this water industry, this water side of the industry is huge. I mean, it's huge enough to where you can make a really good living just only doing water alone. Like for my service for Tendo, if I only shot in water alone for the rest of my career, you still make a really good living. And so when I saw the size and scale of ACE at Denver, it got me thinking like, hey, maybe this is a path I wanted to go down, but I still love the streets guys. I still love the wastewater guys. So I kind of nipped that in the bud and thought, okay, this is great. I just need to learn more about water treatment, purification, all that fun stuff, reuse, like all these different terms that I'm really unfamiliar with. And so I would say ACE for me was one of those mindset shift moments where I had to think about what I didn't know in the industry instead of creating content just to create content. Like, how can I create more content to learn about certain things? And then I'm sure you've probably seen over the months that I've kind of stepped a little bit deeper into the water world. A mutual friend of ours, Paul Gagliardo, had his film debut at ACE, which is really cool to watch. Again, I'm biased to video. Of course, I want to shoot a film. Of course, I want to shoot a series in the industry about the industry. So when I saw him put that together, it's a motivator for me to go, if he can do it, I can do it. Not that he didn't do a great job at doing it, or I think I'm better than him, but just more so like it can be done. You know, I've seen how he did it. So kudos to him for doing that. I'm not sure where he's at with it right now. We just watched a teaser, but again, it's a motivator for me. Let's see, kids summer camp. That was pretty much it for me. Yeah, and then we all know June is kind of one of those months that's change over in the summer from the fiscal years. So it's a lot of the last minute meetings from what I see, people who are within an agency trying to get their budget together or just making sure we're good for the next budget cycle.
Right. So local governments, most local governments, their fiscal year ends June 30. So there's a lot happening there, as you say. I appreciated getting to spend some time with you in June at the ACE AWWA conference in Denver. We met with some of our colleagues from the Mile High Flood Control District, so we appreciated meeting with them and getting a tour of their offices. I also, for part of my book, Managing for Meteors, my book tour demanded that I go to Europe, so I ended up in Paris, France for a little bit there, and then Dubrovnik, Croatia, a little bit in Amsterdam, and then back home. But that was part of the book tour that had to be done, Joe.
Yeah. Did you sign some books out there?
We did it, yeah. We signed some books. And I'm still catching up on my Croatian writing of my signature in the books, but it's all good. So I had to do that. So that was a busy June, trying to balance work across the globe.
Yeah. July for me, again, summer months. In the public side, it goes quiet. Kids are on vacation, people are on vacation. In Arizona, it's hot. A lot of people aren't trying to come outside. So I have zero travel in July. I like to use those months for, I see a lot of podcast bookings. I see a lot of synergy calls. I see some of these board meetings and committee calls. Yeah. I did shoot for a client, city of Mesa, Arizona. Interesting. So Vitendo, of course, and like I said before, the street side of things, I know the industry. I'm a part of an association called MSA, Maintenance Superintendent Association. And one of the colleagues there, he got wind of what I do. And he says, hey, we're getting a new piece of equipment delivered. Can you come out and film the in-service? That walk-around training that is initially given to the operators and maintenance staff from the manufacturer's rep or from the salesman. He wanted me to come out and film it. So I went out and filmed that for the client, delivered it back to him. And I've gotten more work out of that on both sides, from the manufacturer side and from the agency side, which is, again, one of those things. It's smack dab middle of the summer. It was 100-something degrees out there. The camera's about to overheat. We capture the content and all parties are happy. So again, some of these, like, a lot of people think that these summer months, if you're on the private side, you can take off because nothing's happening. Those are kind of when you want to triple down on just getting your meeting set, getting your conversations had, kind of solidifying those meetings for the second half of the year. And that's pretty much what I see on my calendar so far.
For sure. Similar in July, a lot of local agencies. When I was in local government for 20 years, that was a great time to take a vacation because you just wrapped up your budget year. That's the only time you get a real break, I would say, from the process. But I did go out to Hermosa Beach, California, which is a suburb of Western LA, to do some on-site evaluations there of their municipal pier and a P3 project we were looking at. So that was good. And then for my business, thank you to Silsby Strategic Advisors. Shout out to the company there. I kind of work in two ways: heads up, strategic look ahead, which is a lot of the things we're talking about now, and heads down to work on the actual projects that people hire the company to do. There was a lot of heads down work in July and getting caught up with all those analyses and reports and coordination efforts with federal and state agencies during that month. That was July.
Sure. The APWA Arizona chapter meeting, which I'm on the APWA Arizona Communications Committee. We had our annual show down in Tucson, Arizona, end of July. That's always a good event. I usually put in an abstract. This year I didn't, but I did end up speaking with the operations committee. We're trying to get the operations and maintenance committee going. Again, to show love to the orange shirt guys and girls who are out in the field. A lot of these associations can get infiltrated with the engineering firms, with the big projects, the big $400 million this, $200 million that types of events. But a lot of us forget about the guys and girls who are out there as we speak in the field, whether they're at the dowels or behind the wheel or with the shovel in hand. They're actually doing the work out there. And again, with Vitendo, that's kind of one of my ploys or my plights, is that we need to focus on the operator. A lot of our best and brightest in the industry focus on the aging infrastructure of our industry. But I like to focus on the aging workforce. Those who are leaving the industry, taking all that institutionalized knowledge with them and not necessarily delivering to that new generation coming in who needs that information. And so that's the operations committee's kind of push, is to get more people involved on the operations side and be able to cater to them, whether it's tech days, just showing them what's new and exclusive out there in the industry, doing lunch and learns of like what we're seeing, what's working, get 1, 2, 3, 5 cities together and just put them in the same room and tell them to talk about what they're seeing, what they're solving for, what kind of problems they're having, and how they're finding solutions for it. So that was a good event. APWA Arizona does a great job at the conference every year. It's in my backyard in Tucson, so it makes sense for me to go. August, Tri-State. That was in Vegas every year. Tri-State, if you don't know what Tri-State is, the biggest wastewater conference on the West Coast. Tri-State is California, Nevada, Arizona. They all end up in Las Vegas and have that event. This is my first time having an abstract accepted at Tri-State. So I was able to speak about Nintendo. I think I did my talk on the operator talent pool. Like, is it a barren desert or a lush oasis? And I talk about what I'm seeing in the industry. I'm out in the field with a decent amount of agencies to where I kind of hear, feel, and can talk about or talk to what people are seeing out in the industry and finding talent. And so that was Tri-State. The next week, I was in Escondido, California, shooting for a client for a whole week, which, again, these people are smart. They realize that the people who know everything are leaving the industry, and the people that they can hire aren't usually from the industry. So they said, hey, we want to go through with the fine-tooth comb on every different process that we have. We want to capture it on video. So now when they hire somebody, they can at least walk them through some content on what their job is, what it's going to do. And so now they have a full, we're shooting again next year, but they have a full repository of content on what their equipment does, what their processes are. So now there's no excuse for somebody to come in and say, I was never trained on that. And so that was that week in Escondido. Let's see, AZ Rural Water. That was in Prescott. Went up there and spoke at that. And that was it for August.
So August, I think on my calendar, one of the things that was the big one was the APWA PWX in Chicago. We were both there and appreciated getting to spend some time with you again there. You were on the trade show floor doing your thing, which you might want to talk about. And then we also did a joint presentation on podcasting, basically using it as a video medium, since it's the most absorbed medium right now for communicating. And we did that live through a LinkedIn Live. And I think that was the first time ever that a session like that was performed at the American Public Works Association PWX annual conference. So that was big. And then we came back to our homes and we ended up doing a tariffs show through the Public Works podcast, because that was all the hotness and rage of what was going on in the country at that time. So that was busy back and forth, a lot happening, federal level, local level. But I appreciated getting to see you in Chicago.
Yes, I don't know how I missed PWX. It wasn't on my calendar looking at it. Just to kind of double click on PWX. So, of course, we have the Public Works podcast. Public Works is something that I think you and I both were into before we even thought about starting the podcast. So it's our marquee show. It's our bullseye show. It's our show that both you and I, Silsby Strategic Solutions of Nintendo Training Solutions, this is a show that we need to be at every year. And we were there. We were in Chicago, 22,000 people there, I think. Was there 18,000, something like that?
I think it was the record, whatever it was. I think it was record attendance.
Yeah, tons of people there. I was blessed to have 4 speaking engagements there. And again, you join a committee. The committee usually has a certain block or a certain couple times where they're going to present. Raise your hand. I tell people all the time, if you want to be able to circumvent or get past kind of the slog of being in an industry, just join an association. And when you get in that association, join a committee. Even if you're just a fly on the wall for the first 8 months, be that. Just be the person that shows up, has good energy, good attitude. And when they ask for somebody to produce something, be that guy. And so I was that guy for years and years. And now I'm speaking at PWX 4 times during the whole talk. So the first one was, I think you and I did the live show, which was, I think, to be honest, I think if you and I weren't doing a live show, I think our abstract would have got accepted. But I will say making it a live show and kind of just exemplifying what it looks like to create content at a conference or just in general. I think that's what a lot of people appreciated about it. Again, I've always been a proponent of just trying to show the ease of being able to create content and do what you want to do instead of having to just sit around and wait for content to be created for you. So that was a great talk. I did my other talk. I called it Let's Make a Dirty Movie. It's kind of a play on a concept that most young men know, or old men too, know about. But that was one of my more attended, I would say, talks, because I think that the title did kind of make people chuckle and go, I want to learn more about that. And the beautiful thing about that, I was able to get business from that, which is, again, it's always a blessing when I can speak, kind of convey my energy for the concept of video training, talk about what I do when somebody goes, yep, let's do it. So that was pretty cool. And then the other committee talks that I gave. And then I kind of want to go back into just again creating the content. So you probably were at PWX. I tried my hardest. I think my target was 30 of those exhibitor interviews, just to get 30 of those interviews done. I think the first night I got about 14 or 15 done. And I had an Airbnb up the road, and the Airbnb had terrible internet. And so it took me to about 2 a.m. to get those uploaded, posted on LinkedIn. LinkedIn actually, which is for me, it sounds like a first world problem, or for me, it's tough when I don't have LinkedIn because I can't communicate with my network. That's how I don't really want to text people because that's kind of invasive. I'd rather just hit you on LinkedIn. If you check it, great. If you don't, so be it. But my LinkedIn was shut down for some part of that next day because they thought I was using some automation type software because I uploaded so many videos at the same time that one night. So, so that was a PWX in a nutshell. Chicago is a beautiful city, but yeah, and then also at PWX, again, creating content. I shot a kind of a mini documentary, which is what I want to do more of selfishly. Myself, James Golden, and Vertus Wilson, City of Houston, James Golden's PWC out of Indiana. We shot a video, kind of like a mini documentary on just physical fitness in public works and what physical fitness looks like and how it can help you with your mental health and how it can help you pretty much show up for your job how you need to show up because you're physically fit. Because we see it time and time again, is a lot of people who get hurt on the job because they aren't physically fit. A lot of people can't prolong their career because they aren't physically fit. A lot of, like the doctor says, like, do you want to be at your daughter's wedding because they aren't physically fit? So that was, again, I want to shoot more content like that. And I was able to get something like that done at PWX. And yeah, I'm looking at all the meetings that I had at PWX on my calendar, and it was fruitful for me. Hopefully it was fruitful for you. And yes, I'm always open. If somebody wants to game plan how to attack these types of conferences, please reach out. I'm totally down to hop on a call and just chat about some of these things and some of the ideas that I've had and have optimizing these conferences.
Sure. It's such a big deal annually for us, and maybe a couple more comments. Number one, your dirty movie presentation was about dirty jobs in public works and wastewater, right? Just to clarify, right? It was all PG rated, I'm sure. The other thing that I have to do when I go to the annual conference is work with the Government Affairs Committee as my role, as part of my role in the National Committee, and we finalize our policies and the topics that we're going to push into the next Congress, the U.S. Congress. And so we kind of wrap all those up at that meeting and offer those to the APWA National Board. So that's a big effort there. And then I was just reflecting on our live show we did. We had some great guests. You mentioned Vertus was on, but we had people from California. We had APWA CEO Scott Grayson on. We had somebody that was visiting from, I think it was Norway or Scandinavian countries was on. We had the International Public Works president on, or sorry, works with the International Federation from Australia. He was on. So a really great group of people to jump on a live show. So appreciated those guests for jumping out with us.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's do
September
PWI. That was in Phoenix. I spoke at that. I did one which I was proud of because it's something that you're really good at. And it's something that I've always been like, man, I want to learn more about it. Just the forms and functions of government, federal level, state level, local level. Of course, when you sign up for something, I've always been like this. I know if I sign up for something, I'm going to do some work. It might not be the most like the best put together work, but I will do some work to be able to learn it so I can teach it, whether it's preaching or delivering some Bible verses, whether it's, again, forms and functions of government, or if it's something on like trying to figure out tennis because my daughter likes tennis. Like, I'm going to do the homework on how to best deliver it. So when I took on that topic for PWI, I had to learn about government, forms and functions of government. A lot of things that you have delivered over our batch of content, I was able to glean from some of the slides that they gave me from the previous guy like 20 years ago who delivered it. I used some of his stuff, and then I used like my good old research on finding out the best way to deliver the forms and functions of government in regards to public works. And that was a good talk for me. I recorded it. I want to take that talk and do it more holistically in a way that I could take my time and deliver it, just so, because a lot of people learn stuff at it. I learned stuff while I was doing it. A lot of people, again, in PWI, these are the orange shirts who are looking to get inside the air conditioning. These are those who are crew leads. They're trying to get to that supervisor, superintendent level. They might not have a college degree. They might not have finished high school, but they've been working. They've been great people, and they want to get to that next level. And again, that's a topic that a lot of people learned about. So again, PWI, I think a lot of chapters around the country do that. If you have a chance to go to your local PWI, just sit in for a day, meet some people, talk to some people. If you're a part of APWA, please deliver a PWI session, because again, you'll see who's there, why they're there, and it'll make you more energized about what you're doing. So that was PWI. Let's see. The MSA LAOC, so MSA Maintenance Superintendent Association, that was in Orange County, right by the airport there. What's the airport called?
John Wayne.
John Wayne. Yeah, right by John Wayne. That was interesting. MSA is a great organization. Part of why I'm going out next year for their annual meeting is to kind of spice it up a little bit. It's I see this a lot of places, a lot of the, I don't want to say old, but I want to say seasoned. A lot of the seasoned veterans, they've been in the industry for years and years, and it's easy for them to just put their feet up and go, you know what, this is what we're doing. This is how we've always done it. And I could see it, like every chapter is diminishing because, again, it just doesn't make sense for a lot of the youngsters to hop in it, and a lot of them aren't being hurt. So that was kind of that conference. I mean, it was a sleepy-er, it was slower. Of course, I had a good time because I knew people there, but I always look around and go, man, this thing should at least be double the size, double. And that's just because I wouldn't say it was marketed. I wouldn't say it's really pushed. I wouldn't say it's really marketed to the supervisors who push their operators and maintenance technicians to go, because a lot of these technicians have to get the buy-in from their directors, from their supervisors to go. And if it's not sold on that director level, that supervisor level, they're not going to send their operators and technicians. So again, it was about 12 people in the room. I did my talk as usual, and that was kind of what it was. Let's see. WEFTEC was in Chicago. WEFTEC is the probably top two biggest wastewater conferences in the world. That was in Chicago at the same place PWX was. That was another one of those. I had a target of doing 50 of those conference interviews. I wasn't speaking there. It was just something that I know, since wanting to be more on the water side, that I wanted to go to. Went, had a great time, met a ton of people. I got about 3 leads from that. One has actually turned into business so far. And so again, it's just the power in showing up. I could easily not go to a WEFTEC. It's a huge conference. Why not just hit some of the smaller local water conferences and network people who are closer to me? But when I go to a show like WEFTEC, it just opens up my eyes so much. And you'd be surprised who you meet in the hallways at these types of conferences.
For sure. In September, I did the APWA/ASCE Joint Legislative Visit Day in Sacramento, California. So it was a flight up there. We've been talking a little bit about stuff at the local level and advocacy at the federal level, technical advocacy. This is at the state level. California, being the largest state by population, has a lot going on legislatively. There are over 3,000 bills every cycle that we have to review, and I'm on a committee that helps review those for the state chapters of APWA. And to take positions or ask for revisions or meet with those legislators to try to influence the bills at the state level. So that was happening. And then for one of my clients, I got to experience something interesting, which was the release of a green sea turtle at the beach in Seal Beach. I'd not been a part of something like that before. And that was linked with the city of Seal Beach, the San Gabriel River Trash Mitigation Initiative. And this was a turtle that had been caught up and tangled in trash, was captured in a safe way to remove the fishing line and all that stuff. And then there was a whole group of people that were releasing it back into the ocean. So that just kind of drove home the reason for the initiative we're doing to mitigate trash in that river. And interesting to be there to see that green sea turtle release. That was September.
Wow. Nice sea turtle release. I think everybody should do one.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. What are we? October?
Yes.
All right, October was kind of sleepy for me. I see a couple safety days, a lot of podcast work. Let's see. It's funny. I put on my calendar the deadlines to submit abstracts to some of these events. I feel like there's like 6 deadlines for some of these conferences to get the abstracts in, even the proposals for some of these bigger contracts. So I see a lot of that. And again, kind of like the heads up, heads down. There's some deadlines of when delivering certain content, whether it's video content or shows or things like that. So yeah, that was October. I'll see Halloween at the end. The MSA chapter of Arizona, we have this big event 500 people. It's called the Tom Sheets Rodeo. Tom Sheets was a guy, operator who passed away, not in the line of duty, but he passed away and he was a part of MSA. So now we name it the Tom Sheets and actual Conrad Ramos Rodeo. And it's cool because guys are competing in skid steers and dump trucks and street sweepers, line markings, and putting up junction boxes. Just they're competing. It's a rodeo. And then we serve them steaks and everybody has a good time. And I usually go out and shoot the video and all that. And that's one of those, it's a bigger event for us in Arizona. Again, I'm on the board of that association. So it's a big event for us. I just wish there more cities or more agencies or more associations would do something like that. Usually the winners from this event goes to the PWX National Rodeo. Even the rodeo, the rodeo is a little bit different, but we've been crushing this rodeo for the last so many years. I've been a part of it for the last 3 years. When PWX is in Arizona in 2027, we will be a part of kind of the planning and operations side of that rodeo. So that's pretty fun.
Speaking of Halloween, is that when you went to that like Comic-Con type of a conference, or was that later on?
Yes.
I felt like it was around Halloween because everybody was in costumes, but maybe it was just the superhero stuff.
I can speak on that. I don't know if it was in October, but again, shooting content. When you post up, there's a guy I met. I don't think I should drop his name, but I don't think it's nothing against him. He found out kind of what I did, what I do. He found out that I lived in Arizona after a few calls. He says, "Hey, would you want to speak at Phoenix Fan Festival?" And I'm thinking, "Oh yeah, is it about like water treatment?" He's like, "No, it's like a Comic-Con." Huh? I'm thinking, like, why would I? Like, you don't see any manga on my wall or superheroes. Like, that's not really into that. And I'm almost 40, but I had to realize, especially once I got out there, I said, "Oh, this is huge." There's at least 15,000 people in town just for that event. They took over the whole Phoenix Convention Center, all the floors. Every floor had a certain theme. I walked that thing because my talk was at like 9:30 at night. I wanted to take my wife and children because I wanted them to just, I don't know, experience it. There's a lot of dark stuff there, but a lot of fun stuff for the kids also.
Sure.
But it was at night and it was too late. But it was one of those, again, a testament of just shooting content, being the guy who's willing to say yes. I went and talked about just starting a podcast and how you can go from 0 to 1, like super efficient. And then also like making your own niche, because a lot of people think that they have to start a podcast on like comics or manga or Harry Potter, or like you can go deeper into the niches on some of these topics, and like don't be afraid to go there if you're super passionate about it. So I did some of those in-person interviews. I think I did one with Obi-Wan and one with like a Catwoman, and just asked him about like a wastewater question, which was fun. Again, it's something out of my comfort zone, which I need to do more of. And again, it's a testament, like create that content. If you think it's cringe, if you think it's stupid, still post it. Just put it out there.
For sure. Yeah, that was fun to watch. So October for me, I went to the American Society of Civil Engineers National Conference in Seattle and did some video there and recorded a podcast there. That was a good time. And then came back down and went to San Diego for APWA/ASCE Public Works Institute. This is the fall version. We talked about the spring versions earlier. And I presented on organizational structures and organizational developments for local governments. And then also did a double whammy there and presented on local government finance. So the processes that he talked about, diving in a little further. And so with my 20 years of experience there, I was able to dive in and talk to them about finance, and nobody fell asleep to my knowledge. So that was good. Then came back again in this fall cycle and did the Public Works Institute in Southern California for that chapter in Downey, California. So that was a month of presentations. I forgot I did present at the National Convention in Seattle and talked about managing for meteors again, highlighted my book and the things we talked about there. And that's what I presented on in Seattle. I forgot to mention that. So busy month of travel in October.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You're on the road. Let's see. November was quiet. Of course, Thanksgiving. I had one shoot in Wickenburg. Wickenburg is a city down the road from me. I shot for a manufacturer of a piece of equipment. They said, "Hey, we're sending this piece of equipment to Australia." And they wanted all the operations and maintenance and service, I would say, functions on video, so they could send that with the piece of equipment to Australia, because sometimes the dealer network isn't that robust or doesn't know enough about that piece of equipment that's selling it to that customer. And so this would help them be able to in-service it with the customer with all the video content, which again is a concept that I've always been preaching about. I appreciate how they understood it right away when I pitched them on it. Yeah, so November was kind of sleepy. Mm, with my wanting to get better, know more about water, I went to a wastewater treatment committee meeting in November. Is the City Surprise, which is 8 minutes from here. And I show up, there's about 50 people in the room. I know a decent amount of the people in the room. And it's probably one of the first times I went to one of these meetings and actually sat through the talks. Normally, like when we go to conferences, we don't sit through the talks that often. We're either on the floor networking, shooting some video, or talking ourselves. So for me, it was fun for me to sit through the talks. Some are better than others, of course, but I sat through it, took notes, and of course, I spoke with the speakers after just to clarify some things and learned a lot more about the water, wastewater side of things, whether it's reuse, whether it's like certain chemicals people are using and just certain processes, because there's different ways to treat water. Like you think it's just one way. No, it's multiple ways to treat water just to get it fresh. So that was fun for me. I want to do more things like that. That's kind of on my to-do list for next year, is to go to some of these local events, local shows, pay the money, sit there, take notes, and don't think you have to be the person speaking or networking, and just be the person that's learning. Because again, the more I learn, the more I'll be able to have better conversations around what I do and how I can help them in the future. So that was November for me.
Yeah. And as we transitioned from October to November, I think we did a couple of shows. One was on a show that delved into the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That was what was happening at the federal level. And if you want to know how that act and law affects what's happening now in the government, go check out that show on the OBBBA. You'll see that on the YouTube content. Just go into the dashboard, check that out. And then we also did a show, a national trend heading into the end of the federal fiscal year, which is the end of September, which then takes effect in October. There was a federal government shutdown, so we remember that. We did a show on the impacts of that and how that was affecting local governments and funding and what was happening in DC. A couple of big pieces of content there also available on the YouTube channel. Go check out that episode if you want to know what's going on with the federal government shutdown. And the reason why you might want to check that show out is at the end of January, we're likely to have another federal government shutdown, because that shutdown was paused, or we refunded the government, but just through the end of January. So get ready for that again. And then in November, I attended the Engineering News Record Infrastructure Forum in LA, their 2025 forum, and that was a big deal. Interesting discussions on infrastructure and about the Olympics and what's happening with transit in big cities, things like that. But also when I tried to leave that event in November, it was the same time that they were doing the parade for the Los Angeles Dodgers, because they won the World Series. So it took me like 3 hours to get out of there, which was interesting. I call it interesting now. It was a bit frustrating at the time. Congratulations to the Dodgers, but you jammed up my commute.
Yeah.
And then another just quick milestone in November, I think, is when I hit 7,000 connections on LinkedIn. So thank you for that. And I know you're way ahead of that, Joe, but it was a milestone for me. So that was interesting November.
Sure. All right, December, the final month here. Through podcasting, I had a guy on my podcast. He's the founder of a company called City Rover up in Ontario, Canada. He does a conference, which is something that I've always been intrigued on. He does a conference with some of his customers, some of his potential customers, and they hop on for pretty much half a day, and they talk about, again, things they're seeing in the industry. And it's super well put together. Like they got the softwares and the kind of the logistics and all the back end to support something like this. And it was done really well. And he asked me for the second year in a row to speak on, or to host a panel. So I hosted a public works panel, and I asked questions to 3 different people in public works about pretty much pointed topics on what his problem solves with his service. And so the concept is kind of self-serving, to be honest, but it's something that I go, maybe I could execute on something like this for Vitendo in the next couple of years, because you're getting people together, you're sharing knowledge about a certain problem in the industry, and other people can learn from it. And you can have on people that are your current customers or current pilot people and just let them talk about their experience. That was cool to be a part of, again, because it's one of those motivators. That's something that I could potentially do. Let's see. I had a shoot in Wickenburg again for that manufacturer. Let me go back to the start. So AWWA Florida, that was in Orlando. AWWA Florida, that's the Florida Water chapter. I went out and spoke at that. I was on a panel. I was talking about water, the public persona of water reuse. A lot of people, the phrase toilet to tap came out. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. They're trying to change it to water reuse. They're trying to change the stigma behind it because think about it, toilet to tap sounds kind of harsh. I get both sides of the story. So I kind of wanted to talk about, well, they had me on to talk about putting out content again to kind of sway the minds, the thoughts, the brains of the people you're trying to get in touch to. I did that, met a couple good people there at that show. They probably have the best food. They have a barbecue contest attached to the conference. So they have different people from whether you're a vendor, exhibitor, or you're a city. You bring out your smoker, you bring out your barbecue pit, and you get tickets and you go down the line. You go around and you taste, you grab it. They give you a couple samples of their barbecue. You eat it and you can put your ticket in the bucket for whatever one you think is the best. I didn't stick around to see who had the best brisket, but I definitely had some good brisket. I had a meatloaf made out of sausage that was really good. But anyways, so yeah, that was a good event. From the APWA conference, a guy heard about my service and he works at Manatee County. Manatee County had me come out to shoot a pilot for them in Bradenton, Florida, just south of Tampa. So I flew out there and shot. That was just after the day from Wickenburg. So I literally, if you don't mind, I shot in Wickenburg. I started at 6:30 in the morning, which means I had to be up at like 4 and leave the house at just after 5. I get to Wickenburg, shoot to about 1, and then I had a flight from Phoenix at 4 p.m. And then I had to fly, and there's nothing direct to Tampa. So I had to fly to Denver, stayed in Denver till about 11 p.m., hopped on a flight from Denver to Tampa, which got me in at 4:30 a.m., and I had to be boots on the ground, ready to rock and roll at 7:30 a.m. in Manatee, Florida. So it was one of those travel days that I'm like, I'm not doing that again. But when you have 2 customers and they want some work done, what do? I told my wife, I'm like, this is what we prayed for. But then again, like, this is still going to suck. But
got to do what you've got to do.
That's it. So we did that. And then, of course, there were a couple of days in December that I blocked off intentionally just for shooting content. So I set up my garage setup. I painted half the wall. I got my lights set up in the garage. I got my rig set up with my camera on it, microphone and all that. And I shot some content. So there's a lot of content that I created already that I'm going to drip out in the next couple months. Just shot from those last 2 days. I want to be more intentional. Again, we'll probably get into some of our targets for next year, but I want to be more intentional on shooting more content. But I'll let you go ahead and take over December.
Yeah, December. So to wrap up the year, I was fortunate enough to be on a tour to investigate a trash interceptor in LA County. I own a creek that's at the outlet right before. It's an urban river that heads out to the Pacific Ocean. And this is a mechanized barge, if you will, that collects trash in and then readies it for transport out. And I took that tour with a few people from across the country and then across the world. There was a group there from the Netherlands that helps design and run that effort with the help of LA County. So that was interesting. Then came back to an event in Lakewood, the APWA Best Awards, which recognizes projects and people. Some of my clients were recognized for their projects, which was great. I was also on the selection panel to help for certain categories in selecting some of the winners. And then I was fortunate enough to receive the 2025 President's Award. Kind of can see it back here. It's transparent, but received that from the chapter, which was great for all the efforts in 2025. Then was able to go out to San Bernardino County, which is a bit of a trip out. Almost had to spend the night, but decided just to get up early and leave late to support one of my clients, San Bernardino County Public Works, as they evaluate progressive design build teams to build their new headquarters in San Bernardino County. So that's a big deal there. Then I rounded that out with a holiday trip to Michigan. So it was a busy 2025.
All right. Well, that is our 2025 wrapped. Anything else you wanted to cover, or do you want to get into some of these targets, even if you don't have goals written down, just some of the things you're looking to do more of or less of for next year?
Yeah, a couple of things on the 2026 look ahead. First, just want to say, if you want to work with me for Silsby Strategic Advisors, I help local governments primarily, or people looking to work with local governments. What do? I operate as a fractional government executive, meaning I do those things that are higher level, might have a little bit of a political slant, outward facing slant, whatever it is, a technical slant that's beyond some of the capabilities, maybe at the local level, might have to deal with a state or federal issue or a regional issue. So that's how I help those folks. I do specific analyses like fleet analyses, financial analyses, capital improvement program development, things like that. So if you want to reach out to me, you can get me through the show here or hit me up on LinkedIn. And then for 2026, real quick on the travel, I hope to be out to Phoenix in January to do some content and meet with folks there for business. And so you might see some Public Works podcast content dripped out from the City of Phoenix folks. Then in April to Washington, D.C. to, again, advocate with ASCE at the federal level. Then back there in May to advocate with the new Congress through APWA in Washington, D.C. Then in June, I hope to maybe see or join you at the Arizona APWA annual conference. And then in August, this is a quick high level, but in August, we will likely be together in Houston at the APWA PWX annual conference, hopefully presenting again together if we're accepted. So those are some high level elements. Let's hear about some of your thoughts on 2026. And then I've got some quotes for you to choose from, 3 quotes about success in 2026. You can tell me what your favorite one is.
All right. So 2026 for me, for speaking engagements, I had 11 in 2025. I think I could be happy around 10 in 2026, whether it's PWI or whether it's the rural water in Arizona. Some of these rooms are filled with 4 people. Sometimes it's 400 people. I want to do 10 of those. And again, on the marketing side, when I can get on stage, get in front of people, it automatically makes you kind of a position of power and influence or a thought leader. And what I do is I record those. I record every single talk that I give when I'm on stage. And that allows me to create, let's say, 5 to 10 different pieces of content from each talk. And I use those to drip out on social media over time throughout that year. So that's why I want to continue to get on stage. It's not just to be the guy who's on stage and always in demand. It's more so that, hey, I get to meet more people that way because people come out, get familiar with the face and the voice and the brand and all that. And then I get to use content from there. Cities travel 2025 was 19. I guess I don't really care how many cities I go to in 2026. Of course, I want to be busy. Like I told you before offline, like, yes, there might be some times where I might want to go to a show that's not paid. And I have some paid work that gets in the way of that. That's going to be that growing pain of business. And that'll force me to make my first hire in 2026. That's kind of like one of my big goals, to make my first 2 hires. Podcast episodes, 65 in 2025. I want to do 75 in 2026. How will I get to 75? Not taking time off on the ask, meaning connect with people, ask them to get on the show. A lot of people go dark after you ask them. They say, I want to hop on the show. They get busy. I get busy. We forget about it. I want to stay intentional on saying, hey, if you want to get on the show and you said you did, let's do the show. So I think I can get to 75 comfortably by just being more intentional on following up. Because again, like I have actual sales to do and I follow up on that. Podcasting always gets put on the back burner when there's more important stuff that needs to get done. But if I can keep those systems in order to keep those follow-ups done, then I can get there. Synergy calls, again, those calls are when I get on the phone with somebody. It's just a hallway conversation, what we're seeing about the industry, what we're seeing in the industry. This could be competitors in the industry. This could be people who I would never personally do business with in the industry, but we're just kind of sitting on the same side of the table and looking at what's working in the industry. 86 this year, I want to do 150 next year, which is kind of a lofty goal. But again, the more synergy calls I've had, the more business I've been able to, or more leads I've been able to get out of those. Another target is content creation. I don't have an actual number of how many talking head videos I want to shoot and produce for this next year, but I want to be more intentional because I did well. But of course, the busier I get, the more it drops off, and then the more I go, oh shoot, I need to start shooting more video. Whether it's doing my book notes, which I really love to do because those help me when I review the books that I read and some of the things that I learned, and then it also helps the industry when they can listen to a 60-second video on what's from a book that they want to read. Those pesky exhibitor chats that I do at all these conferences, I want to do 100 next year. I think I could get there easy. I mean, if you do 6 shows and you walk through the exhibit hall and actually forcefully tell them, hey, this is what we're going to do. It's going to take 90 seconds and you're going to be happy from it. You'd be surprised how many people turn me down from doing those exhibitor interviews. I walk up to them and say, hey, I'm going to interview you about who you are, what business you do, and how people can get in contact with you. And I'm going to post it on my LinkedIn tonight, 20,000 followers. And all I need you to do is reshare it. And they say, I'm not interested. And I say, it doesn't cost you anything. And they say, I'm not the guy. And I say, well, why are you here?
Yeah,
if you're not the guy to talk about you and your business and what you sell, does your marketing manager know about this? Like, does your marketing or does your CEO know that he spent $15,000 to get you a booth here and fly you out here with all your stuff and you don't want to talk to media? I don't think so. So anyway, that's a pain point that I need to get over, but I just never understood why people turn me down in regards to those. So if I can find a better way to get people on, if you have a better way, you can feel free to chime in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so those are my targets for next year. It's going to be a good year. What I already have on the books in regards to revenue for 2026 will be probably the best year I've ever had with Vitendo, which is great. I just don't want to lose steam on the marketing, the content creation, the public speaking and all that. And again, like making my first 2 hires this year, this will be more so the why I would make those hires, because I can't be everywhere. Not that I need to find Joseph or Shane Silsby to be the charismatic Shane wherever he goes. I just need somebody to kind of fill in the spots that I can't go, whether it's shooting content or speaking on stage or going to some of these events and keeping the brand in people's faces. So that's my outlook for 2026. Yeah.
All right. So final wrap on 2025. I mentioned this earlier, the 24 clients I worked on. Thank you to all of them. My top 4 or 5 there were the American Society of Civil Engineers partnership with the National League of Cities, the City of Glendale in Los Angeles area, City of Seal Beach, my number 1 local agency partner. Appreciate all the efforts I get to work on with them. Enterprise Automation, which is an integrator for SCADA and automation. So a nationally known certified group that does SCADA support services. And then TransTech Engineers, which does mostly program management, project management, construction management in the LA, Orange County type area in Southern California. Many great clients I worked with this year, but thanks to those top ones, which helps support what we do here for free, right? We can't go to the conference, we can't speak, we can't do podcasts, can't write books if we don't have some of that support from the clients. So I wanted to say 100%. Thank you. So looking ahead, 3 quotes for your consideration, unless you want to provide your own. Number 1 from Mahatma Gandhi said, the future depends on what you do today. So that's 1.
Yeah. Next
is success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out, by Robert Collier. That's number 2. And these are all looking to 2026. Number 3, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So of those 3, what do you like?
You don't have to be great to start to be great. I probably abuse that in a lot of the startups in my life, in my adult life from after college, because it's so true. You don't have to. A lot of people think that they have to have every green light on the way to where they're going before they leave the house, and you don't. Kind of like what we've learned with the podcast or business. You just got to start. You got to start going. Just put your one foot in front of the other. And you'd be surprised whether you're not religious and believe the universe or God or whatever, like it'll find a way if you put that effort in. But I feel like you and I, we've already started. We're already in it. So I'll take away number 3 there, but I do believe that so much into that adage. The Mahatma Gandhi, your next year is totally predicated off of today. I think I butchered it already.
Okay. But the future depends on what you do today.
Yeah. Yes. So I think that's probably my second favorite, because in sales, like we know our next 3 months are predicated off our last 3 months. Our next 3 weeks are predicated off our last 3 weeks. Our next 3 days are predicated off of these last 3 days. How we end up when we do our 2026 wrap up, like when we started doing the show, I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this as something to look back on to make sure I hit some of my targets, all of my targets for 2026. So probably in December, I'll be putting this video on and I'll be listening to myself saying, ooh, did I succeed here? Did I succeed here? And so I do believe that some of what we do in these next couple of days, weeks, months will help our 2026 be the best year ever for us, or for personal, business, whatever. And the number 2 quote was, what was that again?
Collier says, success is the sum of the small efforts repeated day in and day out.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at in life right now, is just those micro improvements, that 1% better every day. Like I have in front of me here, like I have a spreadsheet, and I have the amount of connections I get in a week and the amount of Vitendo meetings had every week. Tactically, on LinkedIn, you can request 100 people a week until LinkedIn stops you from requesting it. It's not a penalty. They don't shut your account down. They say you can only make 100 a week. I try to hit that limit every week. And out of the 100, like let's say October the 6th through the 12th, I had 71. October 13th through the 19th, I had 84. So you can get sometimes 60 to 80 connections every week. And sometimes there's 39, sometimes there's 55. So you can get a spectrum of connections every week. And out of those connections, like the week that I had 84 connections, I had 11 Vitendo meetings, meaning I pitched my business, somebody new about Vitendo that week. And so I have a spreadsheet of all these weeks of how many times I've connected with people, pitched it to them, and I have conferences and all that fun stuff. Those little increments, those little things that I do, I think that's what's going to make the year, what it is. So that's why I'm a fan of number 2 being the quote of the year. Give me your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts.
I have 2 thoughts. One is I think you could combine them all together, right? So what you do today affects what happens tomorrow and later. You need to do the little things every day to have those things happen later. And don't be afraid to start those things. So it kind of combine them all together. But my favorite quote normally, and it's been for years, by Henry Ford, is that you can't build a reputation on what you're going to do. You have to do it first. Then you get a reputation, right? Good or bad. So anyway, that's the one I've used for years.
Dude, that wasn't an option, man. What's going on?
Well, that's my quote.
Oh,
I mean, that's the one I use.
You and I were kind of like game planning on the quote for next whatever.
I just threw it in there. I like those quotes too. That's why I pulled them up.
Okay.
Yeah, these are for people to think about heading into 2026. So I thought that'd be fun to just go through those. Anyway, I've appreciated working with you more closely in 2026. It's been fun and a lot of work doing the podcast.
Yeah, give me your thoughts so far on the podcast. Love it, hate it.
I'm thankful for it. It is a lot of work, and people might not understand that if you do a 40-minute, 50-minute podcast, the pre-production and post-production is probably 3 times that for me. So getting everything ready, getting the questions, getting the script and the outreach, and then doing all the post-production and editing and posting, it's 3x. So I don't know that everybody knows that, but at least that's my experience. It's both difficult and rewarding. But you're a pro. You're down the road much further than I am.
I'll speak freely on it, but one of the reasons why I wanted to work with you was because you had the adage of like, let's make it more professional. And I said, you know what? The podcast probably could. I mean, I had the podcast on my video, on my company page, and it was like confusing people. And like people were going to my Vitendo company page on LinkedIn to ask about podcast stuff. And it was kind of all over the place. And I'm the type of guy, like, you don't need to be great to start. Just start. I've started, and there's times where you got to go, okay, like you started out pretty rough. Like maybe you can refine it after 3-4 years of doing this podcast. And so that was what I appreciated. You're saying, hey, let's make it look a little better. And I've always wanted to do like thumbnails. I always wanted to have its own YouTube channel, kind of like when I started doing ultra marathons, right? I said, I want to start running ultras. And so what I do is I find an accountability buddy. I find somebody, whether I know, whether I don't know, I say, hey, man, I'm looking to do ultras. And even if I don't ask them personally, like I didn't ask you to be my accountability buddy. I just asked you, just be yourself, you be human, because I know if I say I'm going to deliver on something for you, I got to deliver on something for Shane, right? Whether it's doing thumbnails, whether it's doing the YouTube channel, creating a new LinkedIn channel for the podcast, like same with the ultra marathons. It's like when I said, okay, I'm gonna get in 60 miles this week, dude, by Monday, I'm like, how am I gonna get to 60 this week? Right? I got to do 8 today. I got to do 10 tomorrow. You start backing into doing that. With the podcast, it was something that I knew I wanted to kind of spice up a little bit. Yes, it takes more work. Do I roll my eyes a lot when I'm creating thumbnails and stuff like that? Yes, but it makes it look better. I mean, I see the way the page is already at 546 followers on LinkedIn. I don't see why we can't be at 2,000 by the end of next year. I'm converting all the video content that we shot for the last 4 years from my other YouTube channel, putting it on my new YouTube channel. So it's going to be a lot more fresh content coming in, a lot more people with eyeballs on the show, which is fun to watch. I tell my wife all the time, I don't want the podcasting to get in the way of Vitendo. I don't really feel it has. I feel like it's helped it out because the relationships I've made, the brand that I've built for just me, like my personal brand of being the Public Works podcaster guy, has helped out in so much. And I'm starting to see that fruit come in already, which is some of the deals that I had last year, some of the deals I had this year, and some of the deals I have next year. So, I mean, again, I told you plenty of times, start your own podcast. Like you can do the same thing. Nobody cares about the lineage of the show. Of course, if you came to me next year, it's like, hey, man, I want to break off and do my own. I'll be like, for sure, dude. Do it. Make it the same Silsby Public Works show, whatever. Oh, I'd be happy for you. Because again, like it's the Public Works podcast is my baby. I mean, it's not too many handcuffs I put on you, but I feel like everybody can have their own show and do what you and I are both doing. Yeah, I appreciate you for just helping me help myself and cleaning it up.
Yeah, well, you mentioned accountability, and it's good to have somebody to talk through stuff with, right?
Yeah.
On strategy. You're doing it on your own, you get pretty
Yeah.
siloed. So that's good. And all those numbers you mentioned, that's really just since September, right? The rebranded the Public Works podcast page,
Yeah.
LinkedIn and YouTube. That's all just in the last 4 months. So we like the trajectory, like any podcast or promotion or effort, you've got to get more people to continue to engage. So
Sure.
we hope folks will do that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that is it for me on this New Year's Eve. Anything else from you before we get out of here?
That's it. Happy New Year to you and your family. Wishing you much success in 26 and appreciate
Likewise.
being able to work with you more in 2025.
Likewise, I will see you at the top. Once again, for all the listeners, share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you for everybody for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.